welcome to Women's World. I'm Geraldine Calabai. In this episode, we take a closer look into sorcery accusation-related violence. Sorcery accusation-related violence has led to the death of many women. While many continue to suffer, it is a very sensitive and difficult topic. Various organizations are working in communities around the country to tackle this issue, but there's still a lot to be done. We will look at the research that is currently being carried out by the National Research Institute and talk to PNG Tribal Foundation about the recent torture of Leniata Kepari's 6-year-old daughter. But first, we look back on some stories that have been covered over the years.
Me innocent, me no sabe lagan something no, me no clear. All bagrabi me nothing because all jealous na bagrabi me. All be negative me, all be nagama me one kind of some Jesus. All be making no and come out of me. Yeah, all to go to me sangumana. You kill him one man to.
You've just heard the experience of a woman who was accused of sorcery and brutally tortured in Southern Highlands province.
All kukim dis la paya, tribe la payana. Tribe la payana, all bush knife na, spade na. Okay, that I na bodia all chubing genjilo dis la payana. I'm like ngut runa. Mila sinda nege rosana, all kukim mipla.
The death of Angeline Leniata Kepari in Mount Hagen, Western Highlands province sparked much outrage both locally and internationally.
This stone here at the Mount Hagen Rabiamul Cemetery marks the grave of the late Leniata Kepari. The question is, was she really practicing sorcery, or was she just another victim of a sorcery accusation?
All Christopher me or Saint Jesus. That's all. Me no make him one la talk. Me stand up long and me stand up yet long la talk and me have him name long big man.
The only person who stood up to defend her husband, was also attacked.
Man blumi karim bus na bigam na like whitey modia ta so lem labun tu mas na blandi krat tem stab longen or pas him lekan blongen lo baglenia megi mosem na or logi mi set laus yan labun mania kati mi go ko lo titi go ko na em kam ge na em burgi man la het lo wan la man na la mi gam em kege han blongen em megi mosem ta so lem mosem labun man blomi em labun man tu mas osem dino asa islo by kidim tu bla o tre bla dis.
After the break, we look into the torture of Leniata Kepari's 6-year-old daughter, who was also tortured due to sorcery accusation. Welcome back as we discuss sorcery accusation-related violence. One organization that has joined the fight against sorcery accusation-related violence is the PNG Tribal Foundation. One particular case that has taken much attention is the killing of Leniata Kepari in 2013. 5 years after her death, her 6-year-old daughter was also tortured for sorcery. President for PNG Tribal Foundation, Ruth Kisam, gives us more insight.
Well, I have a personal story actually. So in 2000 and before I joined PNG Tribal Foundation, I took my dad to the hospital. It was in October of 2013, and I came across a circular from the morgue attendant saying that the OIC for the morgue saying that bodies have to be collected. And I went through the names of the 6 names that were there, and on the 5th one was written Meripaya Kukim. Sanguma. And because I knew that there was only one woman in 2013 that was killed, and that was Kepari Leniata. So I called up the hospital morgue and I said, I saw a notice like this, and the notice was out in May, and this is October, and she was killed in February. Is this the same woman? And they said yes. And I said, has anyone claimed her body? And they said no, she wasn't claimed yet. So I said, okay, I would like to claim her body. And they said, the thing is, we don't know where she is in the morgue. We know that she's here, no one has claimed her, but the thing is, it's been 10 months now since her death. So they had to call me back in 2 days to tell me that she was found, but that, that she was unclaimed. So I said, okay, I would like to bury her if that's okay with you. And they said it was okay. So I went through the whole process, but the thing was that she didn't have a post-mortem, so she didn't have a death certificate. She didn't have a warrant to bury because it was a criminal case, and yet there was no arrest done, nothing of that sort. So it took me another 2 months going back between the police and the hospital. And finally, about a month shy of a death anniversary, we buried her at a plot that was given to us by the Catholic Church. Father Casper from Rabiamo gave me that plot and said, look, you don't know her and I don't know her, and what you're doing is, you're doing a service to someone. But for me personally, I thought that everyone needs dignity. She died a very undignified death, but that doesn't mean that even her body has to be treated like that. So we buried her. Now last year in November, I got a phone call that told me that the woman that you buried, her daughter was tortured. And this was on a Wednesday, I remember so clearly. So I called up my friend Anton Lutz, and I said, this is what happened, because I wasn't allowed to touch a mother's body. I wasn't allowed to touch Kepari Leniata's body because people said that I wasn't related to her, and I lived in the same community, and that if I were to touch her body, then I would some kind of curses and all that. So that kind of belief. So I had to ask Anton to help me out, and Anton was the one that actually wrapped the body up because he was a white person, and so to put all those thoughts to rest. So I called him up again and I said, this is what has happened, and he offered on the spot. He said, look, let me go up to the village where it is, and I gave him the location of the village, and I said, I'm flying up the next morning, but you have to go because that's a 6-year-old child. And at the time of her mother's death, she was 18 months old or something. So, and this is a baby that grew up in a different community altogether, thinking she was safe. And then this falls on her. So Anton went up there, and the next 2 hours he was negotiating with the village people, telling them, you have to give me the child if she's still alive. And we found out that she was still alive. So he brought the child down. I went up, I landed in Hagen, and we met up there, and we got the child to safety. And for a week we spent at a hospital. And the Kujib Nazarene Hospital were very, very kind to us. They waived all the fees. They said you don't have to pay it. They put her up in a very safe place so that she could be, her burns can be taken care of. She was very badly burned. And at the time it was a week after she was hurt. She was tortured. They hung her up. They used knives on her. They used hot bush knives on her. And all the while telling her to give back her heart, and she didn't know what it was. This is a baby, a 6-year-old. And so when we were at the hospital, she couldn't even speak Pidgin, and I knew Enga, so we were both speaking in Enga. And she was telling me, and you could see her eyes, it was dead. And when we were there, she looked at me and she said, can we get on a plane and go? And I said, yes, we can. We can go on a plane. And so we did. A week after the hospital, we did. And we handed her over to people that are now looking after her and are keeping her safe. And we've got families that are now rallying with her, giving her an education, a home. Her scars have healed up so nicely. She's talking, she's learning English. But she's one. Imagine how many other kids that are going through that. Sorry. So this is one kid we've saved, but there's so many others that are still out there, and some of them have lost their lives. Some of them because their mother was killed because she was so-called a witch, and now the child is being tortured and killed because of that. And then you have other. There's a boy that we dealt with last week. His father. We rescued the mother in 2016, and now the young boy was badly beaten by the father because he's 4 years old and following his mother. And the father belted him up and tortured him because he was afraid that the kid was gonna get something from the mother. And these are children that we are working with and that have come into the system. But imagine how many children that are out there that have lost their lives because their mothers have been accused or their families have been accused, and there are many more. Imagine how many daughters are now facing the same thing. A woman called me up to tell me that she said, I'm a witch and that's fine, you know, people have labeled me as such, but my daughter is 17 years old. Now men are telling me we can't marry you because you're a daughter of a Sanguma. We're having young girls that are being persecuted, young boys that are going to school as early as 5 o'clock because they don't want other people to see them on the road, and coming late home after school. They are talking with their teachers that they need to stay in class until after school is over so that when they get home, people are not going to see their face. So young children are now afraid of going to school because they've been labeled. We are not disputing people's belief. I'm not saying that people shouldn't believe in Sanguma. Whatever it is, if it's your cultural practice, that's fine. Whatever it is. But ask yourself this question: is it good? Because we're destroying people's lives based on our so-called belief. We're destroying homes and we're destroying families. We're killing women who are marginalized. Our custom and our culture was never like that. Every witch in a community used to be a man and feared and revered by people. They left him alone because he was that kind of a person in the community that you knew. He has powers. But now, it's not that man that they're going after. It's that marginalized woman, that widowed woman, that barren woman. So yeah, it used to be a man in the community where everyone feared. That used to be our cultural belief around sorcery or a witch. But these days, it's always the marginalized women. It's either she doesn't have a son to protect her when they accuse her. It's either she's barren, she doesn't have children, so something is wrong with her. She couldn't bear children, so something is wrong with her. It's that woman that has, decided to have a child before she was practically married, so she's that scorned woman in the community. It's those women that are weak, that are powerless to protect themselves. It's always those women that they're going after. So it's definitely got nothing to do with culture at all. And for those cultures that are perpetuating it, they don't seem to have the cultural root to say that I'm passing blomibla because I'm not passing to mana blo planti, blo culture work lo now kilimol merilungen. So this is one thing that that through Senisim passing we are working in communities to sort of bring it out so people can be able to see that.
Welcome back as we look at sorcery accusation-related violence. The National Research Institute is currently carrying out a research on this topic. This research is a project supported by the PNG Australian Partnership. The research is intended to support the rollout of the National Sorcery Action Plan. Dr. Fiona Hakala gives us more insight. Hi Fiona, can you introduce yourself and tell us your role in this organization?
My name is Fiona Hakala. I am the program leader for the Building Safer Communities research program here at the Papua New Guinea National Research Institute. So my work looks at issues around gender-based violence, and we have a 4-year project looking at sorcery accusation-related violence.
Can you tell us what research you've done so far on the issue of sorcery and your findings?
So the research is intended to support the rollout of the Sorcery National Action Plan, which is being led by the Justice Department. And we are working in Bougainville, in Anga, so the data collection started there last year, and we're rolling out that research project here in NCD as well. And we've also done some research in Simbu. So we're looking at the provinces that are considered hotspots. From 2 provinces, we've collected data from Anga and Bougainville, and the results as of last year, 31st of October, show that since 1st of January 2016, there's been 161 recorded incidents with 246 people accused of sorcery accusation in those 2 provinces. In 32% of the cases, there have been a co-accused, so there's more than one person being accused of sorcery. There's also been, in nearly 40% of the cases, there's been incidences of violence that have happened. In terms of the gender, in Anga, the majority of cases are women who are being accused of sorcery, and it's the opposite in Bougainville, where the majority of cases that have been recorded are men who are being accused of sorcery. Based on that, we can say that we can't really generalize about sorcery accusation, because we can see here from those 2 provinces alone that it's quite different. And we've just started, as I mentioned, here in NCD, so we should have some results in terms of those kinds of figures by the middle of the year. The research data that I just shared has come from our community recorders, so they're people who are working with us in those 2 provinces to document sorcery accusation violence that happens within their communities. We're also working, we've done interviews with police and with village courts, with the National Court, also the Office of Public Solicitor and Public Prosecutor, to see whether cases from the community are coming right through the court system. But in most cases, the accusation violence doesn't come out of the community. So even if the police intervene, it's quite difficult for them to make arrests or get a hold of perpetrators when communities are protecting them. And also because in some of the areas where this kind of sorcery accusation violence is happening, it's very, very remote, and police need to have those resources to get into those areas quickly if they're going to have some intervention.
The issue of sorcery trickles down to other and affects other issues. Can you at least give us one of the issues?
There's the issue of displacement, because people sometimes have to leave their communities because of that violence, also because of the stigma. So that's a very, very important thing. Just to be accused of being a sorcerer, that's a stigma, and that's something that sticks with someone for life. And I think we have seen that most recently in the attack of Kepari, Leniata's daughter, where her mother was killed, and here she's the child of that woman, and she was attacked. She's an innocent child. So these are the things that really affect families, communities. I do know that people have been relocated because of sorcery accusation violence. Most of the accused were in a monogamous relationship. However, women who are accused are far more likely to be in a polygamous relationship. So those are some of the interesting findings about the kinds of people that are being accused. For at least 150 of the accused, there was a pre-existing conflict, so around land or jealousy over money, and this has led to accusations of sorcery. And that for men, it's mostly the land kind of disputes that have led to sorcery accusation.
Can you tell us about the Sorcery National Action Plan and your role in that?
So the Sorcery National Action Plan came about in 2013. There was all different stakeholders came together to work on this plan, and it was endorsed by NEC in 2015. Unfortunately, there wasn't funding attached to that plan, but there's been a lot of work, very good work, that's been led by the Justice Department to implement this plan. And so it would be really useful for funding to come to that plan, so that more of the good work that the Justice Department has been doing can be carried out, especially in the provinces that need to address this issue.
Dr. Hakala, can you tell us some of the outcomes that you'd like to see after this research?
The outcome of the research and what we'd like to achieve is to have evidence-based policy. So that is the role of NRI, to conduct research, to inform policy. And so we hope that by the end of the research in 2020, the response in terms of the justice response will be informed by some of the findings of our research. We hope that with the government's commitment to addressing sorcery accusation violence, with the Sorcery National Action Plan, and with the money that's been allocated in the last budget to sorcery, that this will be something that we work towards continuously, to trying to help our communities to find better ways to address this issue, right at that community level, but also through our justice system.
Dr. Hakala, what would be your message to people out there with regards to sorcery accusation-related violence?
Time mipla kolim narpla sanguma, mipla brukim lo, na mipla brukim lo tu time mipla go katim narpla na kukim na kilim lo tok blo sanguma, so mipla mas painim ol narpla way na ol walk wantem ol lo tu line ol churches blo mipla na ol village leaders lo time lo downim this la heavy lo sutim tok na kilim na katim man lo tok blo sanguma.
That's all for this week. But don't forget, you can always like our page on Facebook, that's Women's World, where you can also see some of the videos from today's program. Until next week, I'm Geraldine Kalabai.